They say beauty fades, but have you ever met a woman who walks into a room and suddenly everyone goes silent, not because of what she's wearing, but because of who she is? That quiet confidence, that subtle power, that glow that no makeup can create. She's not the loudest voice in the room. She's not trying to impress anyone, yet somehow she becomes unforgettable. This is the essence of maturity, not in age, but in energy. And if you've ever wondered why some women seem irresistible without even trying, it's because of 6 habits they live by. Let's talk about them. Not the kind that makes people look at you for a moment, but the kind that makes them never forget you. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she realizes that not every battle is worth fighting, not every voice deserves an answer, and not every presence deserves her energy. That's the moment she begins to mature, not in age, but in essence. The shift happens quietly. It's not something you can capture in a mirror or display on social media. It happens deep within her spirit. She stops needing attention to feel alive. She stops needing validation to feel worthy. Because she understands something most people never do. Peace is more valuable than attention, and self-respect is more attractive than approval. When a woman reaches this point, something about her changes. You can feel it before she even speaks. Her presence becomes calm but commanding. She doesn't rush to explain herself when misunderstood. She doesn't compete for space in conversations where she no longer fits. She simply chooses peace over noise, understanding that peace is not the reward for winning an argument, it's the result of walking away from it. And that's what makes her irresistible. Not the kind of irresistible that screams for attention, but the kind that whispers confidence, control, and emotional strength. This kind of woman doesn't chase closure. She doesn't wait for people to see her worth. She closes the door herself and smiles while doing it, because peace is sacred. It's her sanctuary. She understands that being peaceful is not about living a drama-free life. It's about mastering the art of not being disturbed by the chaos around her. She may have been through heartbreaks, betrayals, disappointments, and 1,000 moments of pain, but instead of turning bitter, she's turned wiser. The noise taught her what silence feels like. The pain taught her what healing sounds like. And through that transformation, she learned the ultimate truth that peace is not something you find, it's something you build inside yourself, one boundary at a time. A mature woman knows that peace doesn't mean avoiding people. It means avoiding patterns. It means not entertaining people who feed off her reactions. It means not being available to every situation that drains her spirit. She used to try to fix everything, to make everyone understand, to make every relationship work, but now's better. She knows that peace sometimes means deleting a message before sending it, leaving a room before it turns toxic, or staying silent even when she has 1,000 things to say. She has mastered restraint, not because she's weak, but because she's evolved. She knows that her energy is currency and she spends it wisely. People often mistake this calmness for arrogance, but that's far from the truth. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. She has simply learned the difference between responding and reacting. She doesn't give everyone access to her emotions anymore because she's learned that not everyone deserves that level of intimacy. She no longer finds validation in being understood by others. Her validation now comes from understanding herself. That's why she moves differently. That's why she feels untouchable. You can't manipulate someone who's not afraid to be misunderstood. You can't control someone who's found peace within. This woman doesn't post to prove a point. She doesn't need to tell the world she's happy. She's too busy living in her peace. She's not loud about her victories or bitter about her losses. She has learned to let things flow, to let people go, let time reveal, and to let silence heal. Because she knows that peace doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from trusting it. She's stopped fighting for things that require her to lose herself in the process. Instead, she's fighting for her calm, her mental clarity, her boundaries, her growth. And every time she chooses peace over attention, she becomes more magnetic because people can't look away from someone who doesn't need their validation to shine. What's fascinating about her is that she doesn't even realize how powerful she is. Her peace speaks louder than any argument. Her silence intimidates more than anger ever could. And her absence, when she walks away, leaves a deeper impact than her presence ever did when she was trying to be understood. There's something almost spiritual about that kind of energy. It's the kind of energy that can't be faked or imitated. It comes from having faced storms and choosing not to become one. It comes from knowing that the only validation that truly matters is the kind that comes from within. You'll notice she doesn't chase people anymore. She doesn't explain why she's distant. She doesn't beg for time, attention, or love. She simply aligns herself with those who bring peace and distances herself from those who bring chaos. She has learned that sometimes peace looks like spending time alone rather than being surrounded by people who don't value her. No, she knows that her peace is her responsibility and no one else's. That's why she guards it like treasure. That's why she refuses to negotiate it anymore. When you observe such a woman, you realize that her peace has become her aura. It's in the way she smiles calmly even when others provoke her. It's in the way she listens without the urge to prove a point. It's in the way she no longer reacts to disrespect. She simply disappears from it. That kind of emotional maturity is rare. It's not learned overnight. It's earned through experience, through heartbreak, through learning the hard way that not everything deserves a reaction. And the truth is, her peace isn't about detachment. It's about alignment. She's not cold, she's centered. She's not avoiding life, she's protecting her spirit. She's not emotionless, she's emotionally intelligent. Because she has realized that nothing drains a woman faster than trying to please everyone while losing herself in the process. So she's done with that. She now gives her energy only where it's respected. She speaks less but means more. She shows up fully or not at all. And in that quiet strength lies her true beauty. The irony of it all is that the moment she stops trying to be noticed, she becomes unforgettable. The moment she stops trying to be loved by everyone, she becomes irresistible to the right people. Because peace in its purest form is seductive. It's rare, and anything rare will always attract attention, not because it seeks it, but because it embodies something others crave. That's the power of a mature woman. She doesn't chase peace anymore. She is peace. There's something remarkably magnetic about a woman who knows her worth. She doesn't need to announce it, she doesn't demand it, and she certainly doesn't beg for it. She simply lives it. When you meet her, you feel it in the way she speaks, in the way she carries herself, and in the way she chooses what she allows and what she doesn't. She doesn't move from insecurity or desperation, she moves from clarity. Because she's not trying to impress anyone anymore. She's not interested in proving that she's enough. She's already done the inner work to realize that she always was. That realization changes everything. It shifts her from chasing love to choosing alignment, from proving her value to protecting it. She used to confuse walls with standards. She used to think that being guarded meant being safe. But she's learned that walls only keep love out, while standards invite the right kind of love in. Now, she doesn't build barriers out of fear. She builds boundaries out of wisdom. She's no longer afraid to say no when something doesn't sit right with her, and she doesn't apologize for doing so. Her boundaries aren't aggressive. They're gray scream. They don't simply exist. And people feel them even when unspoken. This woman has learned through experience that people treat you exactly how you allow them to. There was a time she accepted less than she deserved because she didn't want to lose someone she cared about. But now she knows better. She knows that losing someone who doesn't respect her isn't a loss, it's a release. That's why she no longer chases explanations from those who mistreat her. She doesn't try to convince anyone to see her value. If they can't see it, that's their limitation, not her deficiency. Her standards are not negotiable because they're not built on ego, they're built on self-respect. She doesn't play games or manipulate emotions. She doesn't create confusion to feel powerful. Her power lies in her clarity. She says what she means and means what she says. If she's interested, you'll know. If she's not, you'll feel the distance. And she doesn't do it to be mysterious. She does it because her time, energy, and peace are sacred. She's reached a stage where she refuses to entertain inconsistency or half effort. She knows that love without respect is just emotional chaos, and she's no longer interested in chaos. The beauty of a mature woman with standards is that she doesn't need to chase attention. Attention comes naturally to her because people are drawn to certainty. Her energy is steady, her boundaries are firm, and her intentions are clear. That kind of woman is rare in a world full of mixed signals and temporary emotions. She's not out here competing for validation or begging to be chosen. She is the choice, not because she's perfect, but because she's real. And real women know what they stand for, radiate a kind of confidence that doesn't fade. She's not impressed by status, wealth, or charm anymore. Those things used to catch her eye, but now she looks deeper. She looks at consistency, effort, emotional maturity, and integrity. She's seen too much to be fooled by pretty words or grand gestures that lack depth. She knows that anyone can promise, but very few can show up. That's why she doesn't settle for potential anymore. She's learned that potential is a promise unfulfilled, and she's done waiting for people to become who they said they'd be. She wants peace, not promises. Presence, not potential. Effort, not excuses. You'll notice that she no longer explains her standards. When someone tells her she's too much, she smiles because she knows she's only too much for those who are not enough for her. She doesn't shrink herself to make others comfortable. She doesn't water herself down to be digestible. She's learned that the right people will never ask her to be less. And because she lives by that truth, she no longer fears walking away. She's mastered the art of detachment, not out of bitterness, but out of balance. She knows that never cost her dignity or self-respect. People often misinterpret her confidence as arrogance, but it's not arrogance, it's alignment. She's not looking down on anyone, she's just done lowering herself to fit places that can't hold her truth. She's not difficult, she's discerning. She doesn't expect perfection, she expects effort. She knows that love isn't about constant fireworks, it's about consistency, communication, and emotional safety. And that's exactly what she gives and expects in return. What makes her truly irresistible is how calm she comes in her standards. She doesn't argue, she doesn't beg, she doesn't prove. She simply aligns. If something doesn't match her peace, she walks away quietly. Not with resentment, not with revenge, but with resolve. That quiet departure says more than any confrontation ever could. Because when a woman knows her value, silence becomes her language and distance becomes her power. You see, her standards are not rules. They're reflections of her growth. Every no she says is a yes to her peace. Every boundary she holds is a declaration of self-love. Every time she walks away, she's reminding herself that she deserves better. And because she believes it, the world eventually believes it too. She doesn't get to shout her worth from rooftops. She doesn't need to prove she's valuable. Her energy does the talking. Her boundaries do the teaching. Her choices do the showing. And that's what makes her irresistible. Not because she's playing hard to get, but because she's hard to forget. A woman with standards doesn't attract everyone, but the ones she does attract, the ones who see her peace, her strength, her grace, they don't want to lose her because she stands for something rare in today's world, self-respect. She's not asking to be treated like a queen because of entitlement, but because she treats herself like one. She's not waiting for someone to make her feel complete. She's already whole. That's the secret no one tells you. A woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, doesn't settle, and doesn't compromise her peace. She simply attracts what mirrors her energy. And when you meet a woman like that, you realize you can't buy that kind of confidence, you can't fake that kind of calm, and you definitely can't forget her once you've known her, because she's not trying to be chosen anymore. She's already chosen herself. There's a deep, quiet kind of power in a woman who understands her emotions instead of being controlled by them. She doesn't explode when things don't go her way, and she doesn't shrink when life becomes heavy. She feels everything deeply, but she's learned to master what she feels. She's aware that emotions are not her enemies, they are messengers. Each one tells her something about where she stands, what she needs, and what still hurts. And that awareness, that calm self-control, that's what makes her unforgettable. It's not that she doesn't get angry or sad or disappointed, it's that she knows how to process those feelings without letting them define her. Once upon a time, she reacted to everything. Harsh word, a delay in response, a broken promise. Each one felt like an attack, and she felt the need to defend herself instantly. But now, she knows that reacting to every provocation only gives power to the wrong people. So she's learned the art of pausing, the art of breathing before speaking, the art of asking herself, is this worth my peace? And most times it isn't. That pause has become her weapon. It's not silence out of fear, it's silence out of strength. Because she's realized that maturity isn't about not feeling emotions, it's about managing them with grace. When she's hurt, she doesn't lash out anymore. She doesn't rush to prove a point or seek revenge. Instead, she sits with her pain. She lets it speak to her instead of running from it. She lets the tears fall if they need to, but she doesn't let those tears drown her. She stops seeing her emotions as weaknesses. Now, they are her teachers. They tell her where she's still healing, where she still needs to let go, where she's still learning. That's why she's dangerous in the most beautiful way, because she has mastered herself. You can't manipulate a woman who understands her emotions. You can't shake a woman who has learned how to regulate her reactions. Emotional intelligence has become her quiet superpower. She doesn't seek control over others, she seeks control over herself. She knows that the way people treat her says more about them, but how she responds says everything about her. That's why she no longer engages in drama or arguments that lead nowhere. She doesn't defend her character to those committed to misunderstanding her. She knows her truth, and that's enough. And when she speaks, she does it from a place of balance, not bitterness. Her tone carries calmness even when her heart is bruised, because she's realized that staying calm in chaos is one of the rarest forms of strength. She's not afraid to walk away from things that disturb her emotional peace. Not because she's cold, but because she's learned the value of protecting her inner world. She knows that not every reaction deserves her energy, and not every situation deserves her voice. Sometimes the most powerful response is none at all. It's not avoidance, it's wisdom, because she knows that when emotions run high, logic hides low. So she waits. She allows time and clarity to guide her instead of anger. And by doing that, she maintains her dignity, her presence, her peace. There's a certain glow about her now. It's not the kind of glow you get from makeup or mirrors. It's the glow of self-mastery. She carries a quiet confidence that doesn't need to be loud. When someone tries to provoke her, she doesn't flinch. When someone withdraws love or attention to manipulate her, she doesn't chase. She simply smiles to herself and stays still because she knows her worth isn't up for debate. Her calmness confuses people who expect chaos. It makes them question their power over her. And that's what emotional maturity looks like. Not the absence of emotion, but the refusal to let emotion run the show. She's also learned empathy. She can now look at someone's anger and see pain behind it. She can see that most people act out of fear, not malice. That doesn't mean she tolerates disrespect. It just means she understands it without internalizing it. She doesn't absorb others' chaos anymore. She observes it. That shift alone has changed her entire world. Because once you stop trying to fix people and start focusing on your own peace, life becomes lighter. She's learned that compassion doesn't mean staying where you're mistreated. It means wishing others well from a distance while protecting your own energy. Her emotional control doesn't make her robotic, it makes her radiant. She still feels deeply, but she's selective about where she invests those feelings. She gives her love to people who nurture it, not to those who exploit it. She speaks up when necessary, but walks away when silence holds more power. She's no longer driven by the urge to be right, she's driven by the need to be at peace. That's how she wins now, not through arguments or validation, but through detached and calm confidence. There's something magnetic about a woman like that. The world can try to shake her, but she stands grounded. She's been through too much to let small things break her. And even when she's in pain, she carries herself with grace. Because she knows pain is temporary, but dignity is forever. Her composure becomes her language. Her restraint becomes her statement. She doesn't need to tell you she's strong. You feel it in her silence, in her eyes, in her calm. She's aware that emotional control doesn't mean emotional suppression. She still allows herself to feel jadness, anger, and love. But she doesn't let any one of them define her. She's learned to dance with her emotions instead of being dragged by them. That's why she's so peaceful, even in uncertainty. She knows she can handle whatever comes, not because life is easy, but because she's built resilience through understanding herself. And that is what makes her truly irresistible. Not her beauty, not her charm, but her emotional balance. The kind of energy that doesn't demand, but attracts. The kind that doesn't react, but responds. The kind that doesn't seek control over others, but full control over herself. When you meet a woman like that, you realize she's not looking for key attention or validation. She's simply living in harmony with herself. And once a woman reaches that level of emotional mastery, there's nothing more powerful, nothing more magnetic than the peace she carries within her. There is a quiet power in a woman who has learned to enjoy her own company. She doesn't fear silence because she has discovered that solitude is not emptiness, it is clarity. It is in those moments alone that she meets herself fully, without masks, without pretense, and without distractions. She sits with her thoughts, confronts her fears, and nurtures her dreams. While the world races to fill the silence with noise, she understands that the richest conversations she will ever have are the ones with herself. That ability to be alone and not feel lonely is what sets her apart. It is what makes her presence magnetic, because she no longer depends for her happiness, her validation, or her sense of worth. She has become her own source of joy, and there is nothing more compelling than someone who is whole unto themselves. She has spent enough time seeking approval from others, and the lessons have been hard but invaluable. She has realized that if she waits for someone else to complete her, she may wait forever. And so she has chosen to complete herself first. She cultivates her passions, explores her interests, and indulges in her curiosities. Whether it's reading a book in a quiet cafe, taking long walks with no destination, or simply sitting in reflection, she has learned to find satisfaction in her own presence. This self-reliance is not born out of isolation or bitterness. It is born out of understanding that happiness cannot be borrowed. It must be cultivated, nurtured, and fiercely protected from dependency on others. There is also a profound wisdom in knowing the difference between being alone and being lonely. Many confuse the two, and many fear the former because it may lead to the latter. But she has mastered the art of turning solitude into a sanctuary. She uses her alone time to reconnect with her values, her purpose, and her inner strength. In the stillness, she reflects on her past, evaluates her present, and designs her future. She doesn't let fear dictate her life choices. She doesn't chase companionship simply to escape silence. Instead, she uses this time to strengthen her foundation, to become more resilient, and to ensure that any connection she enters in the future aligns with her standards and her peace. Her confidence grows in these solitary moments because she is never forced to compare herself with others. There are no distractions, no social press, no whispers of inadequacy. She measures her growth only against her own journey. Each small victory, every lesson learned, and each moment of self-reflection becomes a brick in the foundation of her self-assuredness. And this confidence, built in solitude, becomes the energy that attracts others. Not desperation, not neediness, but a quiet, unwavering strength that radiates from within. Being alone has taught her patience as well. She understands that the right people, opportunities, and experiences cannot be rushed. She has learned to sit with waiting and to trust timing to allow life to unfold naturally. She no longer jumps into relationships or situations out of fear of being alone. Instead, she waits until the alignment is perfect, knowing that anything forced will crumble. In that patience, people sense it. They are drawn not to someone seeking completion, but to someone who is already complete. She has also discovered that solace stirs clarity of purpose. When the noise of the world is stripped away, she hears her own voice clearly. She is able to make decisions based on what she truly wants rather than what others expect of her. She acts intentionally, not impulsively. She prioritizes her well-being, her growth, and her happiness. And because she knows herself so well, she enters relationships, friendships, and collaborations from a place of choice, not need. This self-possession makes her irresistible because she is authentic. She is not performing or pretending. She is simply being herself. In learning to embrace her own company, she also develops an incredible emotional resilience. She has faced loneliness and discomfort, and rather than allowing it to weaken her, she has allowed it to teach her strength. She no longer fears rejection, abandonment, or judgment because she knows her worth comes from within. The world's opinions may ripple against her, but they do not erode her foundation. And that stability, that inner security is magnetic. People are drawn to it because they unconsciously crave the calm, confident energy that only someone who is comfortable alone can emanate. Her independence does not make her detached. It makes her connected to herself first and to others meaningfully second. She is free to love without attachment, to give without expectation, and to support without losing herself. Her relationships are no longer about filling voids. They are about sharing fullness. That rare ability to be whole in herself makes every interaction richer, deeper, more profound. People instinctively recognize this, and is one of the core reasons she becomes irresistible. And there is a quiet joy in her freedom. She no longer moves to please others. She doesn't alter her essence to be accepted. She doesn't compromise her values to fit someone else's mold. In solitude, she has discovered her power to live authentically. Every choice she makes stems from a place of integrity and self-awareness. Her presence carries the energy of someone who has faced herself, accepted herself, and grown from herself. That energy cannot be ignored, cannot be replicated, and cannot be diminished. Through her relationship with herself, she has mastered the art of self-love. She nurtures her mind, body, and spirit. She forgives herself for past mistakes. She celebrates her victories. She honors her emotions. She protects her boundaries. And in doing so, she cultivates a magnetic energy that draws the right people, opportunities, and experiences toward her effortlessly. The world senses her strength, her wholeness, and her clarity, and it cannot help but respond. In essence, her ability to thrive in solitude transforms her life. She becomes a woman who is not defined by others, who is not dependent on anyone for her happiness, and who is irresistibly powerful because she is fully unapologetically herself. In learning to love her own company, she has unlocked a freedom that the world cannot give. And nothing is more attractive than a woman who walks through life with that kind of independence, purpose, and radiant self-possession. As we reach the end of this journey, remember this: being irresistible is not about perfection, beauty, or charm. It's about depth and the habits that shape your inner world. It's about choosing peace over chaos, honoring your worth, mastering your emotions, and thriving in your own company. True allure comes from being whole, confident, and unapologetically yourself. So here's my call to action. Start today. Begin by protecting your peace. Set your standards clearly and never compromise them. Learn to respond, not react to the world around you. Embrace solitude not as loneliness, but as your sanctuary for growth and self-discovery. And in everything you do, prioritize alignment over approval. Because when you cultivate these habits, you don't just become irresistible to others, you become irresistible to yourself. And that, my friends, is the kind of power that transforms not just your life, but everyone who crosses your path. Rise, choose yourself, command your energy, and watch as the world responds to the magnetism you've always carried within.